Violence against women. Violence against women and girls is one of the most systematic and widespread human rights violations. It is rooted in gendered social structures rather than individual and random acts. It cuts across age, socioeconomic, educational, and geographic boundaries, affects all societies, and is a major obstacle to ending gender inequality and discrimination globally. The United Nations defines violence against women as any act of gender-based violence that results in or is likely to result in physical, sexual, or psychological harm or suffering to women, including threats of such acts, coercion, or arbitrary deprivation of liberty, whether occurring in public or in private life. Child sexual abuse. Child sexual abuse is a form of child abuse that includes sexual activity with a minor. A child cannot consent to any form of sexual activity, period. When a perpetrator engages with a child this way, they are committing a crime that have lasting effects on the victims for years. So, kapag ang isang salarin ay nakipag-ugnayan sa isang bata, sa ganitong paraan, sila ay gumagawa ng isang krimen na maaaring magkaroon ng pangmatagalang epekto sa biktima sa loob ng maraming taon. Child sexual abuse does not need to include physical contact between sa salarin and a child. Some forms of child sexual abuse include exhibitionism, or exposing oneself to a minor, and then fondling I think paglalambing, intercourse, pakikipagtalik, masturbation in the presence of a minor or forcing the minor to masturbate. Masturbation sa presensya ng isang minor de edad o pagpilit sa minor de edad na magsalsal. And then obscene phone calls, text messages, or digital interaction. So, malalaswang tawag sa telepono like text message o digital na pagkipagnayan. And then, producing, owning, or sharing pornographic images or movies of children. So, paggawa, pagmamayari o pagbabahagi ng mga pornograpikong larawan, pelikula ng mga bata. Sex of any kind with a minor, including vaginal, oral, or anal, kasarian ng anumang uri sa isang minor de edad. So, kabilang apilang vaginal, oral, o anal. Sex trafficking, and then any other sexual conduct that is harmful to a child's mental, emotional, or physical welfare. So, anumang iba pang sexual na pag-uugali na nakakapinsala o nakakaapekto sa isang bata, mental, emotional, o physical na kapakanan. Violence is a violation of women's fundamental human rights, often with devastating consequences in countries where there is no law against domestic violence, as is the case in 46 countries. Women's average life expectancy is typically shorter than men's. Worldwide, 38% of all women who have been murdered were murdered by their intimate partners. Violence also has a negative impact on individual women's livelihoods. The earnings of women in formal paid work who are exposed to severe partner violence are violence are 60% lower than women who are not. What causes violence against women? So ano ang sanhi sa violence against women? Violence against women happens because women and men are not equal. So ang violence against women ay nangyayari dahil women and women ay hindi pantay. There are many different factors which determine whether an individual will experience violence. So, maraming maraming iba't ibang dahilan which determine whether tumutukoy kung isang individual ay makaranas ng karahasan. So, however, a recent study found that gender inequality at the national level in education, access to employment, economic and property rights, freedom to marry and divorce, predicted higher levels of partner violence. As did settings where male authority over women's behavior is considered normal and where violence against women was widely seen to be acceptable. So, while men may also experience violence because of their gender, it is not systematic in the same way. So, habang ang mga lalaki ay maaring makaranas ng karahasan dahil sa kanilang kasarian, the size and the severity of the problem places violence against women and girls on an entirely different scale. So habang ang lalaki ay kalubahaan ng problema ay naglalagay ng karahasan laban sa mga babae, so I think at babae sa isang ganap na magkaibang antas. Legislation alone is not enough. It must be promoted and enforced. Support services must be available to women escaping violence, including access to shelters. Ultimately, the key to ending violence against women and rights is in transforming traditional gender roles and power relations, changing the attitudes and beliefs which allows violence to continue. Drawing on the experiences and expertise of our partners in Ethiopia, Ghana and Zambia, our prevention is possible PDF report shows that the most effective interventions to end violence against women and girls. So, are community-based, challenge attitudes, norms, and behaviors, include men and women, empower women and girls, promote self-led change, make a long-term commitment to communities, gain support of traditional and religious leadership, increases awareness and understanding of the issue among government officials, supports women's access to comprehensive services. Types of violence. Domestic violence. Women are more likely to be victimized by some men that they are intimate with, commonly called intimate partner violence or IPV. Psychological violence. In abusive relationships, a person receives incoherent messages such as, "I love you but I hate you." Economic violence. Avoidance of responsibility regarding household expenditures. Harmful tradition practices. Traditional cultural practices reflect values and beliefs held by members of a community for periods often spanning generations. Harmful traditional practices include forced marriage. Forced marriage is sa pilitang kasal. Child marriage, I think it refers or tumutukoy sa pagpapakasal ng dalawang bata o ng isang batang edad 17 below nang may basbas ng simbahan o prosesong sibil. And then female genital cutting. I think it is ritual ng pagtatanggal ng labas na bahagi ng ari ng babae ay tinatawag na female genital mutilation or FGM, honor crimes, and then dowry, and then female infanticide. So female infanticide, it refers ay ang sadyang pagpatay sa mga sanggol na babae. And then trafficking of women. Violence by the state. Conflict situations. The systematic use of rape and other forms of sexual violence have been recognized to be weapons of war against women. Labor camps. Many women underwent extrajudicial punishment in labor camps of Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. War and militarism. Militarism produces special environments that allow for increased violence against women. Violence in empowerment systems. Women's shelter workers are often reduced themselves to contributing to violence against women by exploiting their vulnerability in exchange for a paying job. Sexual harassment in family. Sexual harassment is a type of discrimination based on sex. When someone is sexually harassed where they live, it can make them feel very vulnerable. They may fear for their own safety and that of their families. Under the Ontario Human Rights Code, sexual harassment is engaging in a course of vexatious comment or conduct that is known or ought to be known to be unwelcome. In some cases, one incident can be serious enough to be sexual harassment. Some examples of sexual harassment are asking for sex in exchange for a benefit or a favor. So which means paghingi ng sex kapalit ng benepisyo o pabor. And then repeatedly asking for dates and not taking no for an answer. So always asking ulit na humihingi ng mga pizza at hindi kumukuha ng hindi bilang sagot. Then demanding hugs. Paghingi ng mga yakap. Making unnecessary physical contact including unwanted touching. Paggawa ng hindi kinakailangang physical na pag-ugnayan kabilang ang hindi gustong paghawak. And then using rude or insulting language or making comments toward women or men depending on the circumstances. Paggamit ng mga bastos o nakakainsultong pananalita o nagkukomento sa mga babae o lalaki depende sa mga pangyayari. Calling people sex-specific derogatory names. Pagtawag sa mga tao ng mga pangalan na partikular sa kasarian. Making sex-related comments about a person's physical characteristics or actions. Paggawa ng mga komentong may kaugnayan sa sex tungkol sa mga physical na katangian o kilos ng isang tao. Saying or doing something because you think a person doesn't conform to sex rule stereotypes. Pagsabi o ginagawa ang isang bagay dahil sa tingin mo ay hindi umaayon ang isang tao sa mga stereotype ng papel sa sex. Posting or sharing pornography, sexual pictures or cartoons, sexually explicit graffiti or other sexual images including online. Pag-post o pagbabahagi ng pornografiya, mga sexual na larawan, tahasang sexual na graffiti o iba pang mga sexual na larawan kabilang sa online. Making sexual jokes, paggawa ng mga sexual na biro or mga komedya. Bragging about sex prowess. Nagyayabang tungkol sa husay sa pakikipagtalik, like pagpahinambog. In the case of housing, sexual harassment may also include making uninvited visits to a person's residence either when they are home or not home. Second one, refusing to make needed repairs and or do maintenance, threatening to cut services, and then threatening to evict someone if they do not go along with sexual advances. The Human Rights Code says everyone has the right to be free from sexual harassment by their husband and wife. Everyone should know about the anti-sexual harassment policy and the steps in place for resolving complaints. This can be done by giving policies to everyone as soon as they are introduced, making all employees, tenants aware of them by including the policies in orientation material, training people, including people in position of responsibility, about the policies and educating them on human rights issues. If harassment happens, do your teens know how to respond to sexual harassment? Consider the following steps. Do not laugh along. A harasser often starts small, perhaps with an innuendo or dirty joke. Zero tolerance can help avoid escalation. Know the law. Every school and workplace is required to have a policy on sexual harassment, defining what it is and outlining the organization's process for dealing with it. Document. Make a written record of dates and specific occurrences. Report the problem. Seek help from the school system, place of business, or church leadership. Some schools allow anonymous complaints to protect students. Be persistent. If your if your complaints are met with indifference, go to a higher level, such as the school district, state, the Department of Education, or corporate leadership. Get legal help. If necessary, an attorney specializing in sexual harassment can provide valuable assistance.